Look at that. Today I want to make some incense burners shaped like Reginald's Tower. I visited Reginald's Tower over the weekend, and it is the largest and oldest of the medieval defence towers that once protected Waterford City. Waterford City is the oldest city in Ireland, and the tower has been in use for over 800 years. It just looked really cool. I think the shape would lend itself well to being an incense burner. You could have a little hole in the back to put the incense cone inside. The smoke would come out the slightly conical roof, which you can't see very well in this picture. And yeah, I'm going to give it a go. I tried to do this yesterday. I initially was going to do this off the hump, which was a bad idea because I can't throw off the hump. This is how it went. I just didn't think it through. These would have been so awkward to trim once leather hard. I would have needed to make a chuck. So I'm going to make them in bats. This is one that I made yesterday. So let's give it a go. Once I've centred the clay and coned it on the wheel, I open it up with my thumb. I pull out a very small amount, then start pulling up the walls. I might stop for a sing-song if the moment takes me. Where do I keep putting this thing? When pulling up the walls, I make sure to leave a nice amount of clay at the top so that I can collar it in. And once I'm happy with the height, I use a plastic rib to smooth the walls and start collaring in the roof section. This is much trickier if the walls are thin. I go back in with a plastic rib to smooth out the roof, then tidy up the walls and take it off the wheel. Because I'm using bats, I didn't sponge out the water. I was lazy. I just hip it out of the piece at the very end. And repeat this 9 more times. That went so much better than yesterday. Can you tell which one's the picture? I think I'm pretty happy. It took me a little while to find my rhythm. I think I started out with wider chimney holes. That was yesterday's one. And then as I progressed, I started to get smaller ones like that one. I'll see how I feel with them. I'm going to continue them all to the next stage. Trim them all. See if I open those ones or keep them as is. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how these turn out. After a couple of days drying, I wet the bottoms just to stick the towers to my wheel head directly. I gave these a really quick trim. It's just a good chance to neaten the angle of the roof and tidy up the opening at the top. And once I'm happy with the piece, I slide in a metal rib to lift it from the wheel. So I've trimmed the little towers, Reginald's towers. Didn't trim them very much, I just want to neaten them a bit. Next I'm going to cut out a little doorway so that the incense cone can be put inside. I don't plan on cutting out the windows or any other doors. I think I'll just carve the outline of them. It's not a candle. I don't want space for light to come out. I want the smoke to just go up the top. So that's the plan. I've got a couple of really terrible knives, a turning tool, a needle tool. We'll see what works. What I didn't think about was I need to make sure the incense cones can fit inside. Bear in mind this will shrink about 10%. I have some inside the house. I went inside to get the incense cones and I thought I'd also light one. I haven't lit one before. I have cats. I don't want to offend them. God, they're actually a lot bigger than I thought. Wow. Wow. Okay. Ooh. We'll see what it's like. Okay, this needs to be significantly bigger. Wow. Are all incense cones this big? I thought they were about half the size. Oh, it comes with a thing, which makes it even bigger. Great. Yeah, I had to cut so much more of the tar out than I expected. Well, the whole idea is that's the back anyway. So that took ages. What would have really helped it would have been if I had a decent knife to use. I used these terrible knife things where the blade is loose. It kept coming out or bending. It made that so much more difficult than it had to be. So I used a combination of a turning tool and the knife and the scoop thing, which is also loose. It got me there, but it was a lot more awkward than it had to be. I'm also really glad that I took these out to measure them, the incense cones. They're an awful lot taller than I thought. I know these will shrink, and it might be a tight fit to get the cone in, but I think as long as it's a reasonable sized doorway, you can tilt it and get it in, it should be fine. What I gotta do now is sponge up the edges a little bit, and then once I'm happy with the openings, I will carve in some relief work for the windows and doors on the front side of the tower. I'm not looking for a replica, but I want it to be reasonable. I think I like how it's going. You have to trust the process. I might carve a little deeper with a pen once they go bone dry, but I'm pretty pleased. Hello! We all survived the bisque firing. No cracks. Everything's looking great. The next step is glazing. I have the perfect glaze. This is called floating iron. I have another video where I show me mixing up this glaze, which I did specifically for this project, really. I thought it would be perfect. It's a lovely brown glaze, but it does go into some blues and some dusty colours. It's really, really fun. I hope you can see. That's it on a test tile, just to show how it comes up with a bit of texture on the tile. What I really would hate would be for the windows and the door to be covered up by the glaze. I specifically want them to be not only visible, but highlighted, ideally. I love when I find glazes that sit just right in etches and grooves. That's really what I'm going for here. This won't take long. These are all very small. I very often would wax my bottoms. I have not waxed my bottoms for this. They're so small. There's no need for the bottoms to get glaze, and if they do, I'll wipe them off. Just go to dip like that. The excess glaze can run out the top. It should be super, super quick. Oh. That's not ideal. I dropped this and it rolled while it was wet. It is marked, it has picked up dirt. I think I'm gonna have to fully wash it off and try again. I don't know what's in there. Just gonna let that dry and we'll try again. That's great. I have not put the glaze away yet because just inside on the base, there's a little bald spot where the glaze didn't quite hit on a few of them. So that's okay. I've got a paintbrush. Just going to dip the paintbrush straight into the glaze bucket. You don't really need glaze medium. I've brushed on dipping glazes and it still brushes on, it's fine. I'm sure it would be better with glaze medium. This is a touch-up job. It'll be perfect. This one as well is a little, the glaze line is a little higher than I would have liked. It's slightly tilted. Because it's such a small piece, it's hard to get it perfectly level. I'm going to just touch that up with the brush as well. Perfect. Great, I'm going to give these a really quick tidy up, just brushing over any bumps, any glaze bumps, and then into the kiln for glaze firing. Wish me luck. Hello! The glaze firing went really well. I'm really, really pleased with all of them. I think the glaze works perfectly for what I had in mind. I'll do some close-ups. I really didn't want the carving to be obscured by the glaze. It shows up perfectly here. This glaze is ideal, I think. It's so lovely. One has a very slight crack on the top. That's not too bad, but it won't be sellable. Yeah, I'm really pleased with them. They turned out really well. I'm going to give them a test. See how we do. I don't normally burn incense because I have cats. This one is frankincense and myrrh. Ooh, look at that. That is excellent. It's so good. I hope you can see the smoke. I know it's a little difficult to pick up on camera sometimes. That's so nice. I know I've done 2 incense projects lately. I don't even, as I said, I don't burn incense. It's just a really fun project to do. I'm going to drop these into the shop in Waterford today, and hopefully they sell well. I'll also have them on my Etsy. Whenever I was buying incense cones to test, I also picked up some, what are they called? I got some backflow incense cones, which is where the smoke from it is heavier than air, so it flows down, which will be another fun project. Like a waterfall effect. Would you guys like to see a backflow incense project? I might do that in the future. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.